The event will bring together business people from both South Africa and Angola. South Africa and Angola have strong bilateral relations going back to the pre-apartheid period. So this gives us an opportunity to build on the existing relations so that we are able to grow trade and investments. So what we expect today will be breakaway sessions that will involve the private sector, and we expect them to identify opportunities for partnerships in terms of trade and investment, but also at the same time possibly close deals because there's a lot that is happening in Angola in terms of infrastructure development. Angola is also busy building hospitals, and a number of our private sector participants that can play a role in terms of partnering with their Angolan counterparts through joint ventures in order to be able to implement the infrastructure program. Angola also has the Lobito corridor, and a number of our development finance institutions are also part of that. It's an opportunity for them to also ensure that we are able to crowd in further investments through the Lobito corridor. I think it will be an opportunity for them to understand what the opportunities are in Angola. We will have a session, especially during the opening part of the forum, where there will be presentations from South African Invest SA as well as the counterparts from Angola that will give a highlight in terms of where business opportunities are. So it's a good opportunity for small businesses to identify a niche for them to be able to participate in terms of South Africa's trade and investment with Angola. Well, Angola is in the process of acceding to the SADC trade protocol. And this means that our private sector will be able to get new market access opportunities at preferential rates because Angola has not yet joined. So in that way, this is an opportune time for the private sector to understand where Angola is currently importing products outside of South Africa and how we can get market access into Angola. But also importantly, the forum will assist us to understand the challenges that the private sector has in trading with Angola, so that as governments, out of the feedback that we'll get here, we can develop an implementation program targeted at resolving the trade barriers that will therefore unlock further growth opportunities.
Well, I represent a company called Glensol, which is a new technology for the oil industry, and especially for heavy oil or for mature oil wells. And it's an additive. So everything they do currently around the world with heavy oil, to melt it, they use steam or heat. We do the same thing, but with cold water and our product. And so it's a very benign product, it's environmentally friendly, but most importantly, it increases extraction of oil from the reservoirs. And in midstream is also very useful for pipelines, flow assurance, and for storage tanks, for cleaning storage tanks and things like this. So we're in league with various South African entities such as the Central Energy Fund, and we're hoping to go to Angola to get involved with Sonangol and the Angolan Oil Ministry. I've been going to Angola for quite a long time. It's one of my favorite parts of Africa. Very beautiful people, rich in resources. I looked at a water concession, a small aquifer. I've looked at the diamond industry there, etc., etc. But I find myself now dealing with oil. And so I'm looking forward to returning. And this opportunity one couldn't miss to network with people from the various aspects of the business world in Angola. I think, the first thing is to expose it to people and to market it and to allow them to test it in the field because we've tested it all over in labs and pilots. But now you need to test it in the field and then to get wide-scale adoption of it. We know it can help from the environmental side, oil spills, cleaning up ships and storage tanks and all of this kind of stuff. But in particular, mining the oil in the ground, in the reservoirs. And Angola has a lot of decline in oil fields because they're mature, they're aged, and so they're not bringing up as much as they used to. And we want to stop the curve from going down and take it up again so that Angola itself becomes more sustainable in terms of its oil industry, which is one of the best and biggest in Africa.
E a África do Sul têm condições para cooperar e trabalhar nas mais diversas áreas da economia, desde
Angola and South Africa, they have great opportunities to cooperate in the sectors of industry, agriculture, tourism, and also training for the workforce.
O facto dos países africanos, mas em particular
The fact that African countries, specifically Angola and South Africa, have removed the need to apply for a visa or reduce the timing for enter the country without a visa. It has allowed the possibility for people in general and business people to travel to each country and get to know the market and also to increase the cooperation between the two countries.
O setor mais importante, eu diria, que é aquele que o governo de Angola definiu como prioritário, o da segurança alimentar.
The most important sector that the Angolan government has as priority is food security, and it is important for African countries to be able to produce locally what they consume, and this also produces a great opportunity for African countries.
Angola tem relações muito próximas e importantes com os mais diversos países membros dos BRICS, mas eu chamaria com particular atenção ao facto da nossa relação muito estreita com a África do Sul, que para além de ser país
Angola has a great relationship with the BRICS countries, especially with South Africa, which we have historical relations. But in general, Angola has good relationships with all countries. There is a lot of synergies between both countries, specifically in the sectors of renewable energies, agriculture, infrastructure, in which South Africa has a lot of expertise and Angola would like to learn from it. In the business world, it is important to maintain contact. People need to know each other, and this kind of event, it is important for connections and people to interact.
My name is Bouah. I'm from Invest SA, and we are the lead agency who attract investment into South Africa. So the key areas that we are driving would be in the green economy, and in the green economy talk about the renewable energies and many other areas in that space. We also drive still mining and agriculture because they're important for us. We also drive the services sector, and then advanced manufacturing and manufacturing are some of our key areas that we drive within the country. So there are a number of things that investors always look out for. One of the key things you may know, and investors are always asking about it, is to streamline the visa regime, because they are always looking at bringing in some of their experts to come and set up their plants in South Africa. So of late we have seen that there's been a real great shift at Home Affairs to make sure we can streamline the visa regime, especially for investors that are coming in here to come and commission their plants. And because those are important for us, because investors who have big plants here come with skills, come with technology, and that's what we definitely need in our country to create, especially in this period where there is a big job creation, a drive from us, and those become important for us. The other part is how do we to localize some of these things. It's good to bring investors in here and projects in here, but you don't just want to bring them and ensure that they bring in resources from their country or components. So how do we localize some of those things in our country? And it's something that the government is also driving big time. The other important thing is the logistics environment. How do we make sure that these goods and services that need to come to these plants and projects can be seamlessly moved and transported within the areas? So they become key elements for us that we sell to invest to say, looking at the visa regime, we need to localize and see how we can work with you so you can bring in skills and technologies. Logistics is important for us in this particular environment. So those become key elements for us to drive investments into the area. So it's important that in the work that we're doing, and that's what from a ministerial perspective, our minister always drives. You know, when investors come in here, they hear this big story about BEE and they start running away and they get scared. And so we go about to explain to them that how these things work. It's not about wanting to take over your business. It's also wanting to transform our economy. And transformation of our economy is not always the big businesses, it's small business. So how, when they come in, can we then start linking them up with small businesses? How can they start incubating small businesses in their big plants to help us to make sure that small players and SMEs can also get an opportunities? For example, if it's an engineering firm, you can get small engineering firms that you can incubate in your big firm and make sure that the quality of the products can meet your standards within our country itself, and that's what we're driving towards.
Our blueprint is the African Continental Free Trade Area. It offers us an unprecedented framework to accelerate intra-Africa trade. By removing these barriers, the CFTA aims to increase intra-Africa trade. We can even do over 50%. This coming year, we'll be creating a market of 1.3 billion. Imagine a world where we will not need an interpreter. Imagine that when we come and speak here, we can all speak in our different languages. We can all understand each other. Understanding that if I speak your language, I speak to your heart.
Thank you very much to our program director. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's welcome His Excellency President Ramaphosa, His Excellency President Lourenço, as they join us this afternoon at the end of what has been a busy day at the Business Summit. His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency João Gonçalves Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, His Excellency Minister Oliveira, Minister of Industry and Commerce, ambassadors of our two countries, ministers from South Africa and from Angola, Excellencies, business executives and captains of industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and privilege for me to welcome you all to this business forum. Our two countries have shared a history of struggle together against oppression, and we stand here today as the closest of friends on the African continent. Excuse me. Our gathering today demonstrates the significant political and economic bonds between our two countries, and also provides us the opportunity for increased economic cooperation in bilateral trade and investment. The purpose of the Business Forum is to deepen strategic partnerships between the governments and the private sector. It offers an opportunity to forge new partnerships in emerging areas such as the green economy, given the endowments of our countries that our countries have in relation to critical raw minerals. This is an essential ingredient to build resilient economies in order to unleash job creation, investments between the two countries and across the continent. Bilateral trade between South Africa and Angola amounted to 13.5 billion rand in 2023. Trade is relatively balanced, with South African exports to Angola amounting to 7 billion rand and Angola's exports to South Africa standing at 6.5 billion rand. South Africa's exports are relatively diversified, and South Africa enjoys a slight trade surplus of 436 million rand. This trade relationship is anchored by a close geographical proximity and our membership of the Southern Africa Development Community. Our two countries have also shown great commitment to the Africa-Continental Free Trade Area. We believe the AfCFTA provides the best tool forward towards an integrated African market of 1.4 billion people and can cement the continent's position as the next growth frontier. With these few remarks, I would like to take this opportunity to urge the business community to take advantage of the opportunities identified today. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure now to introduce President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, a transformative leader who has been at the center of driving fundamental changes in South Africa. From tackling corruption and endemic poverty, inequality and unemployment, to chronic power cuts and COVID-19, President Ramaphosa has taken steps to revive economic growth in South Africa. He has been steadfast in maintaining South Africa's commitment to a foreign policy based on non-alignment. He continues to call for the need to both strengthen and reform multilateral mechanisms and institutions to address the challenges that the world faces. During his leadership of BRICS, he championed the extension of the BRICS expansion and the needs and concerns of the people of the Global South. These include the need for beneficial economic growth, sustainable development, and the reform of multilateral systems. Last but not least, he's been working towards strengthening the strategic, trade and political bilateral relationships with key partners, in particular African countries, with a view to ensure that we leverage African resource endowments to promote sustainable development. Once again, it gives me great pleasure to invite the President to the floor to address us. Mr. President.
Program Director, Minister Pax Dau, Your Excellency, President Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, Ministers of State who are here present, ambassadors, and leaders of business from both Angola and South Africa, and representatives of business and trade organizations, and ladies and gentlemen, it is my real pleasure to address this South Africa-Angola Business Forum. It is also very heartening and encouraging to see such a broad representation of business from the two countries. This in itself is a solid demonstration of confidence, your mere presence here. Confidence in the strength of the two largest economies in our region, confidence in the potential that also exists for deepening trade and investment ties between our two countries, and also confidence that the governments of both countries are taking the necessary steps to ensure that the business operating environment in our two countries and also in our region, SADC, is improved so that investments that you as business people make can be safe and secured. Earlier today, President Lourenço and I had very fruitful talks together with our delegations. We explored a wide range of critical political, economic, and social issues of mutual interest between our two countries. But we also addressed the challenges as well as the opportunities not only for our two nations, but also for the entire region and the continent. During our official engagement, we reached a shared understanding that significant opportunities exist to further strengthen and expand our bilateral trade and investment relations. More than 20 South African companies or entities are already investing in Angola in a range of sectors, including rail, agriculture, industrial parks, oil refineries, manufacturing, IT, financial services, as well as logistics. I'm pleased to see some of these investors present here today. South African development finance institutions are also financing a number of key projects in Angola. By way of example, the Development Bank of Southern Africa is financing port development, railway rehabilitation, oil and gas infrastructure, and renewable energy development in Angola. The Export Credit Insurance Corporation of South Africa has also maintained a very healthy pipeline in Angola in infrastructure development, and the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa is involved in financing the Cabinda oil refinery and the Cabinda phosphate project. We would like to see substantially more Angolan foreign direct investment flows coming into the South African economy as well. Between 2003 and 2024, we have seen only a handful of Angolan companies investing in South Africa, in communications, financial services, and the metal sector. With respect to trade, though South Africa's exports to Angola have grown by approximately 11% since 2019, they account for just 3% of Angola's total imports. Our imports from Angola have declined by some 19% since 2019. Now, if you cast the net wider, it presents immense possibilities for improving both trade and investment flows between the two countries. And South Africa is pursuing an ambitious economic development agenda based on an export-led industrialization process. We seek to revitalize our industrial base, to modernize our infrastructure network and strengthen the logistics sector and the supply chain connectivity with the rest of the continent. And this represents and presents significant opportunities for cooperation in various sectors such as agriculture, agro-processing, energy, rails, rolling stock infrastructure, healthcare, oil and gas, as well as mining and minerals beneficiation. Now, a number of these sectors did come up in our discussions with President Lourenço, and we were all committed in wanting to make sure that there's investment activity and trade that will take place in all these. Now, the rapid growth of key clean energy manufacturing industries as part of the global transition to a low-carbon economy is an area we must explore urgently. The global energy transition offers enormous and new opportunities to upgrade and to diversify into technology-intensive global value chains. And we in Southern Africa are well positioned to take advantage of these changes that are sweeping right across the world. And the transition to a low-carbon economy therefore presents the scope for collaboration around critical minerals, specifically with regards to the value addition and beneficiation that can flow from that. South Africa and Angola therefore have an opportunity to work with other countries in SADC to ensure that we leverage our critical minerals to industrialize. I was particularly pleased when, during our discussions, when President Lourenço said, Angola has been attending the mining indaba continuously for years and years. And we look forward to making the mining indaba much more meaningful in terms of its outcomes. And this we can be able to do if we work together. The era has passed of African countries being locked into the lower end of global value chains as mere suppliers of raw materials. And we've been raising this issue for years, and we now need to see traction. And in this regard, as South Africa, we are most impressed with President Lourenço's vision for the Lobito Trans-Africa Corridor as an economic development zone. The Development Bank of Southern Africa is already supporting the development of the Lobito Railway Corridor, and we are keen to explore other avenues so that we can enhance and enrich our collaboration in this regard. Infrastructure development that unlocks intra-Africa trade is a priority, and we must build on the work already underway on the Lobito corridor to create sustainable industries in the region, so that wherever this corridor passes through, we should see economic development, and the people at the local level should be able to benefit. South Africa is therefore ready to partner with Angola in the development of strategic corridors, including the central, north, and south corridors, with the aim of transforming them into dynamic economic infrastructure projects that can promote economic growth. We are committed to ensuring that continental economic development frameworks and enablers like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area do become a success. In this regard, we look forward to Angola's accession to the Southern African Development Community Free Trade Agreement. Both these agreements will unlock trade and investment opportunities for both our countries. As one of the founding members of the SADC, Angola's recent submission of its tariff offer to accede to the SADC Protocol on Trade is truly a commendable and transformative milestone for regional integration. This significant development in reality opens new avenues for Angola to benefit from a range of economic advantages. And these include access to more affordable inputs and consumer goods, increased employment opportunities, and the establishment of a robust regional value chain. Furthermore, this move is poised to attract greater foreign direct investment, and it is also poised to facilitate joint ventures with other member states in the region and enhance Angola's participation more fully in the regional economy. Now, as government and business, we must use this forum to engage proactively around not just the possibilities that exist, but also on how to resolve the challenges in the business operating environment. Companies in Angola and South Africa have challenges that do make it difficult for them to do business. And our responsibility as regulators and as government is to make sure that we unlock as many business opportunities and create an enabling investment climate. Stringent business visa requirements, high export costs, onerous import processes, taxation issues, and bureaucratic red tape are just but some of these issues. We must be able to engage from this forum with a clear understanding of what the main challenges are and what steps need to be taken to facilitate greater market access on both sides. We in South Africa have embarked on a range of reforms, and truth be told, a number of those reforms were inspired by discussions we have had with the business community, because it is the business community that knows precisely what impedes them from conducting business in a good environment. And I would say that it is the business community that feels the stone in their shoe. So business community needs to come forward confidently, proactively, and be able to outline precisely what is needed to be done.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think it's time for Southern Africa and Africa overall to focus on their economies, focus on growing their economies. So when the economies grow, the potential for ensuring that the peoples of these countries have a better life is when we can be able to grow our economies, create more jobs, build our industries, but more than anything else, trade with each other. I think we can do much more than we have been doing. And South Africa being a new democracy, the experience of the past 30 years needs us to review our engagements and look at which ones are actually, can we maximize. But also when people are here, this is the opportune moment for them to really engage with each other, not only just to exchange cards, but also to talk about the potential, the possibilities, and also how do you fund the projects? Because one of Africa's biggest problems is the fact that projects are almost everywhere. Here they were talking about agriculture, talking about tourism, talking about manufacturing. If you're talking about manufacturing, what is the infrastructure for manufacturing? If you talk tourism, what are the systems that enable people to move around, people-to-people engagement, but also letting people know what is possible within the two countries. And I think the last for me, which is very important, is about maintaining the dialogue and not only talking to each other because suddenly there is a binational. It's important that yes, there is a binational, next binational, there must be a platform that indicates how much of these engagements have benefited, how much money has been made, how much trade has been made. Have we been able to break the bureaucracies? Because one of the challenges is endless bureaucracies and red tape that make it very difficult for business. Actually, you're asking a question that I asked myself on arrival here when I was looking around the companies that are represented here and who are those companies. I don't have the problem with the companies being made out of the people who are managing the companies, obviously being the older generation, because it takes a long time to build entities. However, it should have happened that between the companies, universities, and the government, they should have at least been able to bring some young people who are in your small and medium enterprises, who are at the entry level, to come here, even if it means just listening. It's very important. If we don't do that, we then expect the young people to have an experience. How are they going to have the experience when we don't bring them here, deliberately bring them here? I think the next step is to be very deliberate about bringing young people to such platforms.